It is 10:02. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Patriots defense sacked Matt Ryan 4 times and picked off 3 different Falcons quarterbacks with 4 total interceptions in a 25-0 road win in Atlanta on Thursday Night Football, picking up their 5th consecutive win. They'll have a long week to prepare for the Titans, who return to the practice field today in preparation for an AFC South matchup against Houston in Nissan Stadium on Sunday. Bud Dupree, Jackrabbit Jenkins, and Jeffrey Simmons among the players that did not participate in practice on Thursday. Mike Vrabel will speak to the media this afternoon. The League Company countdown to kickoff hits the air Sunday at 9 a.m. Titans countdown at 11 and kickoff at noon. The Titans will be inducting the late Floyd Reese and former head coach Jeff Fisher into the Ring of Honor with a halftime ceremony. It's a Tennessee doubleheader Saturday on 104.5 The Zone as the 17th-ranked Vols face number 5 Villanova on the hardwood in Connecticut for the Cheez-It Hall of Fame tip-off at noon. And Tennessee football hosting South Alabama, looking to clinch bowl eligibility with a 6:30 kickoff. Vol Network coverage will hit the air at 11:30. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's going on, beautiful people? Happy Friday. 104.5 The Zone. Buck Reising with you till 1 o'clock. Lucas Panzica making all things happen behind the scenes. King Jon Reed, he'll be here at 10:20. Coach Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio. Time to talk a little Texans and Titans AFC showdown Sunday at Nissan Stadium. Vols as well, even though the competition slightly less than against South Alabama this weekend. We're going to be talking about it all day long. If you want to get in, if you got something to say, 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045 is how you voice your opinion. I hate-watched football. I feel like we all hate-watched football if you did stick with the football last night, if for no other reason than curiosity. Right, we've spent a lot of time on the New England Patriots, on Mac Jones the last couple of days because, one, the Texans are all kinds of stinky, and it is hard to imagine that even if things were to utterly implode, that the Titans still wouldn't be able to manage a team that's on an 8-game losing streak. We will see. Wins are not guaranteed in the NFL, but what seems guaranteed in the NFL, at least in the last 4 years, is that the world is conspiring against the Atlanta Falcons. 25-0 last night. We had a conversation yesterday about, the fact that the Texans and the Patriots, the Titans' next 2 opponents, both are going to have a little extra time to get ready for them. And while the Texans may be able to cause you some headaches on Sunday, as we said, outside of disaster, you should be able to handle that one with relative ease. But to go to New England with the now 7-4 Patriots getting extra rest, extra time to prepare, Mac Jones not having to do a whole lot. He's being put in positions that allow him to be efficient and manage the football game and route to a win. And you know how they're winning games? Because they're killing people on defense. Bill Belichick is back. He wants everybody's heads. Oh, you think it was just Brady all those years? You think it was you think it was the quarterback. You think that just because he went to Tampa Bay and got another ring without me, that I'm dead, I'm buried, I'm gone? I don't go for it on 4th and 1, so the game has passed Bill Belichick by? No. I've got Christian Barmore. I've got Matt Judon. I don't need Stephon Gilmore. I'm going to make your life a living hell, Matt Ryan. That is what happened to the Atlanta Falcons last night. Also, the Atlanta Falcons may just be very, very bad at football, but the Patriots are doing this in ways that make you keep them in the back of your head. It's not a feeling that we've experienced as a football-consuming public in a while, but it certainly felt that way last night. I mean, to watch, and Matt Ryan, he has zero help. Like, I felt bad for Arthur Smith. I felt bad for Dean Pease. I felt bad for Young Ho Koo. They had the chance at the field goal, and the penalty pushes them, I mean, just to the point where it's going to be a 50-yard attempt, and he pulls it just a little bit left, and they can't get any points on the board. You know how hard it is to shut out an NFL team? Although I feel like there's been a couple this year, and I feel like they've all come in the AFC East. I feel like the Dolphins have been shut out this year. The Jets probably have been shut out this year at some point. But it doesn't happen that frequently. 25-0, and they did it basically just on the defensive side of the ball. Falcons' offensive line is clearly garbage. I think that for all the memes I saw of Arthur Smith and the Wolverine picture, you know, where he's holding up the picture looking longingly at the photograph from the cartoon version of X-Men, like back in the 80s and 90s or whatever. And instead of Ryan Tannehill's image in the picture frame that Arthur Smith is looking longingly at, I feel like it's Ben Jones, because the center for Atlanta may be the worst that I've seen start an NFL game this year. They have zero help. They have zero help. It's a total rebuild down there in Atlanta, and 4-6 is honestly lipstick on a pig at this point for how little talent that football team seems to have. But I'm looking at the Patriots last night, man, and I'm thinking I would be eyeing that with caution as the Titans get ready to go down this stretch. Hell, I mean, the Patriots are about to go through the ringer. They've got the Titans, Bills, Colts, Bills. This is probably their toughest stretch. So if we're going to find out how realistic a contender they are and how much you actually have to fear New England, I think you're going to find out about that very, very quickly. This is something that Mike Giardi, our buddy at NFL Network, was talking about pregame. He's obviously based in Boston, but he does a lot of traveling with the Patriots for NFL Network. Mike will join us next week, by the way, before the Titans go to Foxborough. And Mike was talking about something that's made all the difference in the world for that Patriots defense, outside of how many dudes that they had opt out during the COVID season ended up coming back. What Mike Giardi said last night pregame, I thought was really telling, and I think it's particularly interesting to Titans fans, given how free agency went here in Nashville this offseason.
What a signing Matt Judon has been.
Been a fantastic fit for the Patriots. 9.5 sacks. He's just one away from his career high. 43 pressures already for Matt Judon. But one of the things that I've really enjoyed about seeing Judon here come together with his team is how they've let him be him. And they said they've accepted me for what I bring to the table. He's got the boombox in the locker room. He'll play all kinds of music. He'll take requests. He brings energy on the practice field. He talks to the practice squad guys. He says, I want to make them feel like they're part of the team. They're involved. They help us get ready every week. But really, it comes down to performance on the football field. As Adrian Phillips said, he's a different cat, a different kind of guy. He brings an edge on the field. He gets under people's skin. He's always making plays.
Does he take requests from the media?
That's an excellent question. He's talking about Detroit, the Detroit sound he's trying to push on people.
Okay.
I don't really know the Detroit sound. I've got to work on that.
Mike is such a nerd. I can't wait to have him back on next week. But Matt Judon has made a big difference, and I know that's something that Titans fans were eyeing when you're doing a little bit of window shopping, right? Once free agency starts to roll around. Oh, I'd love a Shaq Barrett opposite Harold Landry. That sounds real nice. I think that'd be a perfect matching set, or maybe even a Matt Judon. But do you really want him if you're a Titans fan, because he was a part of that whole logo stomping incident with the Ravens in the playoffs and logo disrespect at midfield? It's such a waste of time and energy.
Yeah, but he talked about that, right? He's like, yeah, it's part of the business. If I'm on the Titans, then I'm on that side of the rivalry. It's all good.
So you're just a mercenary for hire, Matt Judon. And the answer is yes, because he's in professional sports, and that's how it should be. So, yeah, you'd get the hell over it if Matt Judon was stomping on your logo last January, and then he ends up rushing the passer for you, because for the Patriots, he's got a career-high 10.5 sacks after last night. He's playing high-level football. And the Titans at this point, as we talked about yesterday, right, Sunday against the Texans, we find out how how many teeth, if they have teeth at all, basically. I don't know what I'm trying to do there, if there's a dentures reference I'm trying to work in. Regardless, the Titans offense needs some. They need some juice. We need to see something against a defense that is outright stinky, ladies and gentlemen. We have to see the Titans operate with greater efficiency, certainly in the passing game, because what they're doing running the football right now, it's simply inadequate for how the offense is constructed. Doesn't mean you should abandon it. Doesn't mean you need to completely change who you are or your identity as a football team. But what we're seeing is, one, Sean Payton kind of got you in the second half. Now, he ended up getting an untimely penalty. I think Nissan Stadium played a big part in that. That crowd was rocking on Sunday, and I would expect to see similar enthusiasm on Sunday, even though the weather's supposed to be a little bit of rain, little rainy. What Sean Payton did to the Titans defense in the second half, though, with just Trevor Siemian, no Alvin Kamara, no Teron Armstead at left tackle, missing 5 starters on his offense, he found ways to exploit what have become predictabilities with that Titans defensive scheme. Now, the pass rush, if it's getting home, you can cover up some of that. But the way that you saw Sean Payton and Trevor Siemian kind of matriculate down the field, I think means that it's time to show that you've got a little more to burn on the other side of the football, because the defense has done their part through this stretch. If you need time to figure things out, kind of devise new game plans or differences, different wrinkles in your game plan so that people don't Sean Payton you again, now is the time for the offense to carry you. And it's coming against a couple of good defenses in the next month, basically, calendar month, with the New England Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers both on the road. And they're looking sneaky good. When we come back, we're going to get into a conversation with Jon Reed. Vols should have things under control in a different kind of way this weekend, sitting at 5-5, trying to get 7 wins on the season, get a little closer to bowl eligible, and make this football season feel like it's accomplished something legitimate. We'll be joined by King Jon Reed of Fox Sports Knoxville. Coming up next, we'll talk about this South Alabama game and kind of evaluate what not Jeremy Pruitt. Oof, you don't want to live that way again.
Don't you put that evil on him.
Did I trigger you? Are you okay back there? Your eyes got really big. As big as when I was talking to myself on the radio, and neither of us realized it until I had a full chance to agree with myself.
You don't want to wait for Christmas.
So dirty. That's coming up next. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. Friday feelings all day long. A lot of good sports on Saturday, though, in the state of Tennessee. Not just a sixth game for the football team, but a really fun basketball showdown between Villanova and Tennessee. Jon Reed, King Jon Reed, forgive me, titles. Fox Sports Knoxville, the Reed's Ranch podcast. He joins us now, as he does each and every Friday. Reed, is Saturday a football day or a basketball day?
Hello from the other side, Buck. Good to talk to you. I ate a steak this morning at 10:30 a.m. to prepare for this performance, so we're good to go.
Okay.
Saturday for me is a basketball day. It's all about Tennessee, Villanova as far as I'm concerned.
So I love that you had a steak at 10:30 this morning. That is the kind of farm boy Reed breakfast that I imagine that you have a steak almost every morning. Like that's what I'm imagining.
I put it in the microwave. I ate it with my hands. I didn't bother cutting it up. I just picked it up like a sandwich and just ate a steak to prepare for this performance.
But better than the Chick-fil-A drive-thru, so we appreciate your efficiency. Speaking of efficiency, the offense with Kennedy Chandler. Let's talk some basketball. I have been so impressed with how much better this looks. I understood that there was going to be a little bit of life injected into this offense because of just how inefficient they were last year and the way things that they basically had to play defense to keep themselves in games. But how much are you enjoying Kennedy Chandler right now?
I have been waiting for a player like Kennedy Chandler to be at Tennessee for a long, long time. Like, he is, I think, the five-star that Tennessee fans have been searching for. Tennessee basketball has had their fair share of five-stars over the last decade, Buck, but none of them have panned out to the level that you had hoped. Like, you had had some, like Tobias Harris. We'll see about Keon Johnson, that were more like NBA-ready guys or NBA prospects. You had some just solid five stars like Josiah Jordan-James. JoJo James, who's on the roster right now. He's a good basketball player. You've had your busts or your players that didn't live up to the hype like Robert Hubbs. You know, Scotty Hobson was pretty solid as a college basketball player, but none of them have been the Kentucky five-star. None of them have been the five-star that you put in that elevates your program to the next level, and I finally think Tennessee has one with Kennedy Chandler. He is my one and only point guard. I have been waiting for him, and here he is, and I do think he raises the ceiling of the Tennessee basketball program. And, you know, you can win the SEC, and you can hope to have some big tournament success because tournament basketball is predicated on point guard play, and I think Tennessee might have, you know, one of the two or three best in the country right now.
I mean, he's certainly playing like it. Jon Reed here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Vols playing number 5 Villanova on Saturday, as well as their game on the football field against South Alabama. I suppose we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But at this point, Reed, I mean, your point guard play is my favorite analysis come tournament time from people who aren't paying attention to basketball but want a way to get their way through tournament analysis, right? It's Rick Barnes and them boys, and they've got good point guard play, so they should be able to make a good tournament run. Now, it is applicable because that, of course, is accurate. But when you look at what Tennessee is right now and what Rick Barnes is running, what do you like most outside of the upgraded talent about the way that this is constructed and the shots that they're getting up, particularly from deep?
Well, I mean, for the first two games, you have changed and modernized your basketball offense. Like, it was frustrating last year, you know, having two five stars. Now, again, I don't think either one of them were the college player that Kennedy Chandler was, but, like, you know, don't you remember we were shooting nothing but mid-range jumpers. Now, you know, Tennessee is playing with pace, and they are shooting threes in the pieces. You know, I've said all offseason that I thought this basketball team was going to be much better than last year's basketball team, just because of, I think the pieces fit together. Like, they complement each other. It makes sense. You have shooting. You have some guys that can finish around the rim. I like the offense. Bug, I guess the best way to put it is just look at the development of Olivier Kumwa. Like, last year, Tennessee wasn't really letting any of their big men shoot outside of 8 feet, and, you know, that guy has already attempted 4 threes and, you know, has made 3 of them and has looked pretty good shooting the basketball. And, you know, that's one of your quote-unquote post players. So Barnes is maybe finally modernizing his offense, and that's the most exciting thing, other than Kennedy Chandler being the best point guard in Tennessee basketball. history.
Already, I love that. Rick Barnes was on with us last week, and we were talking to him about, now obviously that was right after their first game, so some things have developed since then, and you can see that it's sustainable. But Reed, maybe I'm not familiar with your position on Rick Barnes, and basically, does he have anything to prove to you throughout the course of this season, given what he clearly has at his disposal?
I mean, I wouldn't say he has anything to prove to me. He's not getting fired at Tennessee. So he's not on any type of hot seat here. And, I think his career has been pretty well defined by his regular season Rick mentality. I mean, everyone knows the shortcomings in the NCAA tournament. So, I think as a Tennessee basketball fan, you enjoy being one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the conference. You enjoy having a chance to make the tournament. Is it frustrating that we have, only made it to the second weekend once under Rick Barnes? Yeah, sure. But, he's got nothing to prove to me. I can't fire him. I don't think Tennessee's going to upgrade over him. I will say, I've got my eye on Kim Inglis. Hey, shout out to him for beating Maryland. I do find myself thinking about the future. But, no, Rick Barnes, I think he has stuff to prove to recruits. I think he has stuff to recruit to him, to prove to himself in terms of that he can adapt. He's been pretty stubborn over his career, but it's been a really good career, and he's earned the chance to be stubborn for a reason. So, I like that he is adapting maybe now. But, he's going to be a borderline Hall of Famer for a reason.
You know who else has their eyes on Kim English? It feels like Missouri may make some kind of a change if they keep on this kind of pace. Are you prepared to compete with Missouri for Kim English if it came to it?
No, I would imagine that's where his heart is. It's going to suck if he does end up there because I do think the guy's a superstar. I was really excited that Tennessee had him, and you would hope that maybe he'd be the coach in waiting. But, maybe Barnes has got 3 or 4 more good years, and I don't want to think about the future too far down the road because, again, Tennessee has the best point guard they've ever had in program history. I want to focus on the positives.
That's what we need, big positive energy from Jon Reed of Fox Sports Knoxville here with us. Jon _Reed is where you can follow him on the socials. All right, what am I going to learn about the Tennessee Vols this weekend against South Alabama? I've decided that I like Heupel. I've decided that I'm happy in year one, just as somebody who's looking at this from 1,000 feet. I've decided that they need to beat Vanderbilt, obviously, and of course South Alabama. And 7 wins and a bowl berth, that's plenty for me in the first year. How do you feel about the situation thus far?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head for most of it. You asked what we're going to learn. I guess I would say you're going to learn, what happens when when you're turning tables. Now Tennessee has some expectations. How do they handle some? I don't want to call it success because you're 5-5. I don't know how much success you can call that, but you come in with expectations to take care of business against a solid Group 5 program. I don't know, they've been okay. They've been fine. I guess they struggle now since Bentley's been hurt. I think he got hurt, last week? He's been out. So yeah. It does seem like a game Tennessee should win. But how do they take care of business, Buck? How do they show up? Do they just blow a team out like they're supposed to? That would be a good sign. The last couple of coaches didn't necessarily do that. So maturity, growth, handling, like I said, quote-unquote success, and expectations is important this week.
Are you more interested in Tennessee's football game or watching Florida potentially struggle against Missouri?
Again, I don't get off on the hate porn of watching Florida because they beat Tennessee. I don't get off on the hate porn. Do I enjoy Dan Mullen, the fans maybe hating him and Dopey Dan not being able to recruit? Sure, I like that, but I'm not sitting down to watch. I wasn't a fan of Hostel. I didn't really like the Saw movies. I'm not sitting here watching what's going on at Florida because, again, in the back of my mind, I know that Tennessee couldn't beat them, and that still hurts.
No, I understand that, and it's probably the biggest difference between you and me, that I'm so here for the hate porn of watching Dan Mullen go full Butch Jones. I can't take my eyes off it. I'm watching Florida press conferences just to see what kind of uncomfortable jokes he's going to make when everybody's looking at him deadpan.
For me, I'm hoping that Dan Mullen can hang on long enough for, either Lincoln Riley to find a new job or Lane Kiffin to go down to the U or to get hired at LSU. Then I can go full in on Florida, being a dumpster fire. But in the back of my mind, I'm waiting. I don't necessarily want them to run Mullen this year.
Jon Reed, Talk Sports. It's on in just a few moments from now. at Fox Sports Knoxville. You can check out the Reed's Ranch podcast. I don't know. We're going to be off on Friday, so this is the last time that we'll do this until we find out which version of the Duke's Mayo Bowl Tennessee's going to be playing in at the end of the year, Reed.
I think that you think it's going to be the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I wonder what Tennessee wants. Do they feel obligated? Is the Liberty Bowl going to fight for them? Is it going to be another, Florida Bowl performance because Tennessee's brought good fans there?
Yeah.
Will they finally end up in Charlotte? I do think the options are pretty entertaining.
Oh, come on. You want Clemson in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. You want it.
I feel like Clemson's won too much now. I feel like they've kind of outgrown the Duke's Mayo Bowl. They kind of have righted the ship. Now, maybe they'll lose to Wake Forest and we can, get back in that conversation. But if it's not Clemson, hopefully it's someone like like Clemson, and we can play, an NC State. Or I really want Penn State. Give me Penn State. I want Penn State.
Okay. Just to end James Franklin there and now, the ultimate vindication for a Tennessee fan. But I imagine, as Lucas has just whispered into my ear with great satisfaction, it seems, he'll be gone by the time that there's a bowl game for Penn State this year.
I need to right the wrongs of, 2007? I'm still not over it with Arian Foster, the fumble he had in that bowl game. So, I think we need to beat Penn State, as a fan base, to kind of move on and put that demon behind us.
All right. Well, whatever gets me the visual on national television of Jon Reed with a giant thing of Duke's Mayo, I'm actively agitating for it at this point.
That's not going to happen, Buck. I'm not going to do that. Now, would it be a good visual? Sure. But, I'm a little chubby. Speaking of which, I'll put some mayo on you too, big boy. Don't come after me.
Whoa! Reed, that was not necessary on a Friday. What happened to the good energy? No, he doesn't get the air horn. He doesn't get rewarded for that. That was dirty what you just did to me. I still love you.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to set fire to the rain there. I apologize.
How many references is that?
It's 2, and it's plenty. Jon
more
Reed,
than 2.
Enjoy your weekend, buddy. We'll talk again soon.
I love you both.
I love you too. Although I hate him for that. That was not necessary. I think we need to play as much Adele as humanly possible, by the way. We're going to talk about whether Vols fans are more interested in what's happening on the basketball court on Saturday as opposed to South Alabama. I mean, I know what's going to do the bigger television number. I'm not sitting here talking about actual ratings. But if people are gravitating more toward, if you haven't seen the Kennedy Chandler show right now, baby, it's electric. You are going to enjoy college basketball this season if you are a Tennessee fan because what they have at their disposal. And I don't think Reed's exaggerating there when he says they have one of the best point guards in the country right now.
He was the top-rated point guard in his class.
No, it's been spectacular. And just so much more aesthetically pleasing from what it was last season watching the Vols play offense. 615-737-1045. Are you more invested this Saturday, tomorrow, in the Vols against South Alabama and the pursuit of a 6th win, or playing number 5 Villanova in basketball as the 17th best team in the country right now? 615-737-1045. Speaking of Adele, though, have you watched the CBS special with Oprah?
No.
You haven't watched it?
No.
I had it DVR'd. I DVR 60 Minutes because I'm turning into my parents. I'm like those progressive commercials where they take somebody around and give you lessons on how not to act like your parents. DVRing 60 Minutes is how I act like my parents.
Those commercials are excellent.
They are spectacular.
Every time they hit.
Until you start to legitimately identify with them. And now I get tightness in my chest when I realize that I'm aging very, very rapidly. But I DVR'd 60 Minutes. Tremendous television show, by the way. And then on the back end of it, I wasn't expecting to DVR the CBS Oprah Adele special. I cried.
Cried or teared up?
I teared up. I did not full on sobbed. I got dusty. All right.
I'm picturing you gasping between words when Dara asks you what's wrong.
She's like, what the hell is your problem?
She's just been through so much.
It's so true. I can't take it anymore. Taylor Swift's putting out 10-minute songs about Jake Gyllenhaal's scarf at her house, and I got an Adele album dropping on my neck in the same week. I can't live this way. It's physically tearing me apart. Just as I imagine my interests are going to be torn apart because I want so badly to watch basketball, and I know more people are going to watch the football game this weekend. Goodness. When we come back, Lucas has an SEC stat of the day. Spicy weekend in college football, not just in the SEC, by the way. Some interesting Big Ten games as well if you're keeping an eye on the college football playoff. We'll tell you about that coming up next. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Now we're in our feels. Now we got to ride this one out, right? Because the drop is tremendous. Whoa. Was that me? I can hear myself. What did you do? What happened?
I had the stream up on the computer.
I was talking to myself again. That's the second time this week. Lucas, can we do the...
Oh, I had the stream up
What
on
are
the
you
computer.
doing? Do you know that I think I'm going insane when you do things like that to me?
That was not on purpose.
That is so disrespectful. Let's just all sink back. I'm falling apart. All right, get me out of here. Unbelievable. Lebowski on YouTube says, is caller Buck back? LOL, says Derek R. on the Zone TV chat. By the way, you can interact with the show on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. Yeah, I'm clearly losing my mind, and Lucas is doing it on purpose. This is like playing with biological warfare, what you're doing to me right now in the efforts to unseat me. You know, to sit in the big chair, finally, to drive me insane with my own voice is just a special kind of justice that I find so incredibly disrespectful.
I'm just chipping away.
It's really, really hurt. This is a time when mental health is at a premium. So I would say to you, back off, because I'm fragile right now. What's the SEC stat? Somebody on Twitch says the Buck and Buck show. Yeah, I can't live that way. I can't, even though that's basically my entire life, and you guys are just hearing my thoughts out loud. It's very scary. What's the SEC stat of the day?
The SEC stat of the day is that there is plausible potential for a 6-way tie in the best division in all of college football, the SEC West.
What?
Shout out to Andy Staples for laying this out very concisely in his podcast. But I'm going to run through what has to happen for there to be a 6-way tie by the end of the regular season. And you're not going to look at a single one of these scenarios and say that's impossible. First, if Auburn beats South Carolina tomorrow.
Right.
Ole Miss beats Vanderbilt tomorrow. Arkansas beats Alabama tomorrow.
That's the most unlikely one, but
so far,
with the way that Alabama's playing, would it be unthinkable to see an upset?
Mississippi State beats Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl next week on Thanksgiving.
This is really interesting stuff, honestly. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different dominoes that have to fall for a scenario like this to take place, but this is just how thin the margin for error is. And why I'm honestly looking at this and saying, okay, it's entirely possible that Alabama could drop one of the next two.
Well, I'm not done. There's more.
Continue.
Arkansas beats Mizzou next week.
Yes.
A&M beats LSU next week. And Auburn wins the Iron Bowl at home against Alabama.
I just imagine you somewhere in some kind of dark abandoned studio in this building, chiseling out different ways, like different formulas, like in it's your favorite show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Is it Charlie?
Yes, Charlie.
With they trying to connect everything together, and he's losing his mind, and he's a lot of hand motions.
Pepe Sylvia. Now, if all of that plays out, what team do you think it is has the tiebreaker to go to Atlanta to the SEC championship game?
God, I hope it's Lane Kiffin, just for the sake of comedy.
That would be amazing, but it would be Auburn. If all of those things that I just said happened, Auburn would win the SEC West, which would be the most Auburn thing ever, because these are the tiebreakers, and this is courtesy of 247 Sports. First tiebreaker, of course, is head-to-head, combined head-to-head record among the tied teams.
Yeah.
Auburn is 3-2, Arkansas 3-2, Miss State 3-2. So it would be between those three. You move on to the next tiebreaker. Record of the tied teams within the division. Auburn would be 4-2. Arkansas would be 4-2. So it would come down to them. And then head-to-head between Auburn and Arkansas. Auburn beat the Razorbacks a few weeks ago on October 16th. For
a show that is historically bad at doing on-air math, we are testing our credibility here, sir. But I will say to you that, I mean, the Auburn experience seems so unpleasant. Like, if you're a fan of that team, I don't know how Dawn Davenport does it. They are they are not even, it's not even like it's catastrophe when they lose, like what's happening at Florida. Because, like, there's things on fire at Florida because Dan Mullen is dancing around in a victorious post-game locker room and then answering questions while trying to make Ted Lasso jokes. Like Brian Harsin, the roller coaster ride that this is in the SEC, and really just for that particular school, like when things blow up at any other program of legitimate consequence, and Auburn's one of those. Like, I feel like the fan base loses their minds, whereas Auburn fans just kind of take a stick and poke it to see if it's still got any life left to it, like a science experiment. Auburn is just such a weird roller coaster ride. And the idea that this quarterback, Bo Nix, that he could come back. He has 2 years of eligibility left. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, and he's done for the season. So you've got a COVID year.
I would not want to be a part. He is as erratic as that program is.
Yeah, a bit of a microcosm, right, of the Auburn program in the last decade plus.
Every time I turn on the television when Auburn is playing, I feel like it's the exact opposite. Every time. It's like watching the Seahawks play, right? Kevin Clark from The Ringer has that famous tweet every time that the Seahawks play a weird game. The Seahawks have literally never played a weird game, and then people tell him, do the tweet, and he does the tweet when Russell Wilson is getting shut out for the first time in his career because the Seahawks don't play normal football games.
In his 150th career start, a milestone, and he gets blanked.
Now, of course, this is all just complete long shot projection.
No, but not one of those
really
is
not
impossible.
It's not really unthinkable, but
look, you look at the Iron Bowl.
Here's my problem, though. Like, I don't want to get bogged down in this, right? Because the probability of this is unlikely. Let's say. Let's be realistic about this.
It's like a parlay, right?
My bigger issue is, for all the reasons that this could be a disaster and a beautiful one, what is to stop the committee that I despise with every fiber of my being? What is to stop the committee from putting a 2-loss Alabama in over an undefeated Cincinnati? I will physically pull out my hair, and I love my hair. All my friends are starting to go bald. I'm hanging on to this thing as long as humanly possible, but I will pull it out root and stem if Gary Barta gets in front of Reese Davis and tries to tell me why 2-loss Alabama, whomever they lose to in the next couple of weeks, should be in the Final Four over Cincinnati, and I feel it in my bones.
It wouldn't be the first time an Alabama that does not win their division gets to the playoff, and they went on to win the national championship that year. But look, Bama hasn't beaten Auburn at Auburn in the last 6 years.
Oh, it's so good. I want the chaos, but I don't want what I know is going to happen. What I know exactly the way that this thing is going to play out if Alabama takes a second loss in the season. And that's the committee being completely subjective about all of this. Just because the eye test, what's the line? Put aside the games for a second. No, Gary.
Can't do that, Gary.
Can't do that, Gary. I just want Reese to say, damn it, Gary.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Sir, this makes 0 sense. I award you 0 points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Oh, yeah. You're an idiot.
Can we get, that's what we need. That's what we need in our lives. We need Bruce Drennan moderating the College Football Playoff Committee selection show on Tuesday night so he can just scream at Gary Barta's face. What a blessing that guy is. All right, when we come back, I want to talk some Titans football. Big game on Sunday against the Houston Texans. And in particular, we have not spent a lot of time on this defense. Now, I mentioned earlier in the show that New Orleans was able to find some issues with this defense, some predictabilities that the Titans were exploited on. They ended up winning the game, but it got a lot closer than it should have been, and we're going to talk about why coming up next. I'm also going to tell you that I think this defense has 2 Defensive Player of the Year candidates on it, and I'll tell you who those guys are as well. 615-737-1045 is how you can get in on the conversation. I'm Buck Reising. It's 1045 The Zone.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Patriots defense sacked Matt Ryan 4 times, picked off 3 different Falcons quarterbacks with 4 total interceptions in a 25-0 road win in Atlanta on Thursday Night Football, picking up their 5th straight win. They've got a long week to prepare for the Titans, who return to the practice field today in preparation for an AFC South battle against Houston in Nissan Stadium. Mike Vrabel will speak to the media at about 1 o'clock. The Lee Company countdown to kickoff hits the air Sunday at 9. Titans countdown at 11. Kickoff at noon. The Titans will be inducting the late Floyd Reese and former head coach Jeff Fisher into the Ring of Honor with the halftime ceremony. Former Vanderbilt and NFL running back Zach Stacy has been arrested. He is facing 2 felony charges arising from a disturbing video emerging Thursday of him attacking the mother of his child. Aggravated battery and criminal mischief are the 2 felony charges against Stacy. A Tennessee doubleheader Saturday on the Zone. The 17th-ranked Vols face number 5 Villanova on the hardwood. Tip-off at noon. And Tennessee football hosting South Carolina, looking to clinch bowl eligibility for a 6:30 kickoff. Vol Network coverage hits the air at 11:30 a.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Alrighty, hour number 2 on this Friday. Welcome back to the show. Buck Reising here with you until 1 o'clock. Get you a little closer to your football weekend. Lucas Panzica is making everything happen behind the scenes. We're waiting to get involved with you guys as well. 615-737-1045. We got people on the lines. We'll get to your calls momentarily as we talk some Titans here in this second hour. Final day of work on the practice field at St. Thomas Sports Park before they play the Texans. Coach Dave McGinnis will be our guest at 12:20, and we'll get into some X's and O's. But the way that I kind of wanted to look at this thing is I wanted to start on defense because we spent a good deal of time on the offense yesterday. And really what my observation has been is that this defense so far and away improved from what it was just a season ago because of the personnel upgrades that they made, because of people like Christian Fulton, who have really come into their own in his second year. He was our guest yesterday. There is so much to like about where the Titans defense is right now. And frankly, not to distill it down to individual performances, but there are 2 guys who I look at and say they deserve praise above and beyond. Now, I'm not just talking about Pro Bowl recognition. There is Pro Bowl voting that's out and available. If you want to vote for your favorite Titans player or if you're a fan of another team, the Pro Bowl is open and waiting for you. You can do as you like. I'm not talking about something as I'm not talking about a popularity contest. That's what the Pro Bowl is. Who's the most famous player that you know, and who can you vote for on your favorite team? Like, that's all well and good, but it doesn't mean much to me. What means something to me is Defensive Player of the Year. And I think that the Titans have 2 of these dudes on this roster. I'm going to tell you who they are momentarily, but let's we have to take this call. I think we have to go to Ryan in Lebanon up next on 104.5 The Zone. What's up, Ryan?
Buck, can you hear me?
I sure can, boss.
Hey, Buck, can you hear me?
Yeah, you got me?
My bad, yes, sir. Hey, bro, I just wanted to let you know I wasn't going to tell nobody this, bro. But when you said it, I was like, dang, all right, it's cool. Bro, I was watching football all day Sunday, by myself. Then my wife comes in, she said, hey, I want to watch Adele, tonight perform. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yo, I'm watching it. I'm like, yo, why the hell am I emotional?
Man, Ryan, that got me so bad.
Look, I've never even been in a position to feel like that with Adele performing. I said, yo, man. Hey, man, something in the water, man. I don't know what the hell going on.
It got dusty real quick. Thanks for the call, Ryan. Affirmation, baby. We are not alone. That may have been your finest work, by the way. She's just been through so much. Back to football. Grunt, growl, drool, tackle, block. Let's go to Will in Bellevue up next. What's up, Will?
Hey, guys, listen, I got a comment about, I guess, the coaches poll that came out yesterday.
Okay.
Where they were polling about the MVP candidates, and I think Tannehill was 7 or 8 on that list.
Now hold up, Will. Before you get any further, and I want you to make your point, but I need to know where this thing is coming from, and I need to know exactly where he's ranked. I don't need I think. You know what I'm saying? Like I need you to be definitive about if we're going to have this conversation.
Yesterday afternoon on the Blaine and Mickey show, there was a coaches poll that came out that was ranking all of the potential season MVP candidates.
All right.
Tannehill was mentioned, but I think he was 8 or so on the list, which is the first time he was mentioned, obviously, because Henry's out, right?
Yes.
But I guess my beef is the position that everyone was taking on the show and everyone who called in was he's not even a viable candidate because he's not flashy enough. He doesn't change the play a lot. He runs the plays that are called. He trusts what the OC is calling in, and he only does what he needs to do to win the game when he sees that. I guess my beef is, isn't that what you want out of your quarterback versus a guy like, Lamar, who was number 2 on the list, who changes the play 80% of the time, makes major mistakes. Now, he gets away with it a lot, but he makes major mistakes that Tannehill doesn't make because he reads the defense better and he makes better decisions, I think. So I just want to get your thoughts on that because I think that's what you want out of a solid quarterback.
Yeah.
Right?
No, well, and what you've just said though, Will, out of a solid quarterback, right? And most valuable player in the league is not a solid quarterback. And I'm not saying that to dismiss your objections or your thoughts about Ryan Tannehill or to even dismiss Ryan Tannehill himself. I'm saying, but by your own admission, I need more than a solid quarterback to discuss legitimately as MVP candidate. Now, Lucas says he has found this list and where Ryan Tannehill's legit, because what he said was 8th. Will in Bellevue did. What is this list and where is Ryan Tannehill ranked?
Well, we had the discussion on Blaine and Mickey yesterday. An ESPN article came out suggesting Tannehill as a potential MVP candidate.
Okay.
And the list we were looking at was 2021 NFL MVP odds, where he comes in at 10th, plus 2,800, one spot behind Justin Herbert, one ahead of Joe Burrow.
I mean, that sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, Josh Allen at the top, Brady second, Dak third.
I'm not saying that Tannehill doesn't have a winning formula, but for what? So there's 50 MVP votes, right? I know because I've wanted one desperately and I can't have one. I don't know why I can't have one, but I can't have one. I'm going to continue to petition the Pro Football Writers of America. I think that I deserve to be one of the 50 when, of course, I have no business being one of the 50. But you know what I'm saying. You have people like, for example, Peter King or Troy Aikman, who are on some of the NFL's biggest games of the week, whether they're broadcasting for television networks or covering them for national publications or, at this point for Peter King, national websites, right? They are going to see the biggest, the best, and the brightest each and every week. And so when they travel to those games, the best performers, individual performers, are the one that stand out to you. Now, and advanced analytics have made this a more open conversation, a more detailed conversation, and frankly, a smarter one, right? Because MVP was never designed initially to be debated the way that we are now debating it with the way that we quantify football players by their individual performances outside of the larger team. When it doesn't matter necessarily because the ultimate goal is you can have Ryan Tannehill playing the kind of football that he is, which is not flashy. And I would honestly contest, Lucas, where is this notion being born? Because he's the second caller to say that Ryan Tannehill doesn't do things at the line of scrimmage. Guys, watch him. Now, I don't know that he's necessarily changing the play, but because none of us know that, right? Only Tannehill and the coaching staff know that, what he's doing, whether he's changing the play or whether he's just communicating. But this dude is talking a lot at the line of scrimmage. he is very, very vocal out there on the field as he's directing traffic. He is getting them in the proper position to execute the play call, or if he's changed the play call, doing things like last week where they're getting ready to block up a run, and he needs A.J. Brown in a different spot from where A.J. Brown is coming out in motion from. I believe he's coming from the boundary side to the field, and he's lining up on the left side of the formation if you're looking at it from the television broadcast angle. Tannehill immediately bumps him back into the slot, gets him over so that he can help dig out a defensive back so they can block up the run better. I mean, the run doesn't end up going for a lot of yards, but it's a subtle adjustment in real time that Ryan Tannehill does. I don't know that it's more than his colleagues. I'm not watching his colleagues, the other NFL quarterbacks, to see who is talking that much and what exactly they're doing at the line. But this notion that Ryan Tannehill isn't in command and just runs what he's told to run, like some kind of Kirk Cousins automaton, like that's just not an accurate representation of what it is that I think you're seeing. I would invite you to study that closer before you make that kind of an assessment. And while all that being said, I don't necessarily think that he is an MVP candidate, even though I think he does more than enough for the Titans to have a winning, successful team formula. But that's not what MVP is. MVP is sex appeal. MVP is spicy. MVP is for you to walk down the red carpet, get dressed up, and then have Terry Bradshaw get up there and announce you as the next MVP of the 2021 NFL season. Who cares? I mean, I know you care, but it's not that deep what the thing actually is. Let's go to Davis in Nashville up next. What's up, Davis? Oh, I think I hit the wrong button, Lucas. Can you put him back on hold and pick him up? My bad. I hit the wrong button. We'll have Davis in Nashville here in just a second. Maybe I have to put him on hold. Let me try now, Davis. I got you?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, my bad. What you got for me, stud?
Oh, man, how y'all doing today, man? I just want to touch on the A.J. Brown situation. So
okay.
I was watching the conference yesterday, and, man, you just can tell, man, that's a humble dude, man. That's a humble guy. And this team just coming together, man, playing as one. You know, like mental health is real. It's real for him to go out there yesterday and just say the things that he said, not even about him, but about the team. I remember they asked him about Vrabel, and he paused for about 10 seconds, and he went so deep into Vrabel just being there for him, you know what I'm saying, helping him out throughout this whole situation. And that's what we want. We need a coach like that.
Well, hey Davis, did you hear the question from our friend at Kayla Anderson at WKRN? She gets a little choked up in the middle. I mean, that was impactful.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah,
for everybody.
Yeah, that was deep.
For everybody. Yeah.
And AJ was like, "Nah, it's okay." You know what I'm saying? It's okay. Go ahead. So that's what we need. This team, you can tell the vibe. You can tell the vibration with this team, and that's what we need as a Titans fan. We need people like AJ. We need people like Vrabel. We need people like Jeffrey Simmons to keep us going.
Hey, thanks for the call, Davis. Yeah, I'm glad we carried that. I thought about it because I didn't, I don't know what people are dealing with and whether they want just, hey, keep me uplifted on a Thursday in the middle of my workday or give us some real conversation. And we'll pivot back to some sports talk about who these two defensive players are that I think deserve for the Titans Defensive Player of the Year consideration. But with what A.J. Brown is dealing with and the way that he handled himself yesterday, I hope that he can rebound on the field. And I'll tell you why that matters. Because, the sport is what he is has him in the public spotlight, right? And if he struggles, if he has inconsistencies, then it will be brought into a part of the conversation about his performance on the field, how much of the mental health stuff is actually affecting him. And I think that it is such an unfair prism to paint somebody like that into, but I want him to be able to, one, be mentally healthy. Thank God that he didn't take his own life as he suggested that he had thoughts about a year ago. He's got a very, very young daughter. And the ripple effect of that, I can't even begin to imagine. Thank God that he didn't do that. But for the purposes of making sure that his message continues to be heard, because it's a great one. There's no telling how many people that A.J. Brown in coming out and say, hey, it's okay to discuss these things in the light of day. Because there's a lot of people that saw that video he put out on social media. You got no idea who could be going through it at any given point. We will get back to silly sports conversations, but I think it's an interesting one. Which player, because we're going to talk about them both, Jeffrey Simmons or Kevin Byard, who's the better defensive player of the year candidate for the Tennessee Titans? Because I think they got two on the roster, and I think both of them have a damn good case. We'll talk about it coming up next. We'll give you some numbers to back up that opinion, and we'll take your opinions as well. 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Reising. This is 1045 The Zone. Kevin Byard, he's having a hell of a season. Mike Keith on the call, Titans Radio, your flagship home for Titans Radio, 104.5 The Zone. Who's the better defensive player of the year candidate through 10 games? I think that Kevin Byard and Jeffrey Simmons both deserve consideration. I don't just say that because we live in Nashville. I'm looking at games around the league. The more that I watch different NFL teams and different NFL defenses, and really the only reason I'm doing that is so I don't sound like an idiot when me and Cosell do our podcast every week, because Greg's watching everybody else too. So when we talk about the biggest and the best games and the best possible matchups and who's really excelling and what they're being asked to do, I can't find two better players at their position in the sport than Kevin Byard and Jeffrey Simmons. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045. Who do you think deserves more consideration between those two? Now, the answer can, of course, be both, and you're happy to have both of them. Both are allowing others to have success around them because they're clearly scheming things up to put their best players in positions to succeed. Our guest, Christian Fulton, yesterday, he's been a big part of this as well. I mean, Lucas, I was asking you, hey, can you get us a Christian Fulton highlight to come back to, into the segment with from commercial? And you go, I'll let you speak for yourself.
Well, there's the interception against the Jets, and that's it.
That's it.
And that's a good thing for a cornerback.
Because nobody's targeting him. And when he is targeted, as Trevor Siemian did once last week, the pass was defensed. It is something that is really, really enjoyable to watch, even as the offense has been a bit of a slog right now. I'm partial, just as a fan of football, to big-time defenses, to high-power, high-performing, high-execution-level defenses, particularly with the kind of athleticism that this Titans defense has with its pass rush. I think that games are so much more fun when you've got a defense that can just absolutely smoke people. And that's what the Titans have right now. Now, what I'll say to you is what was clear and obvious, I'm pretty sure to everybody. Now, maybe this was not everyone else's experience, but certainly in real time you could feel this in the press box when we were watching the game, and then going back and watching it back on both the television copy and then the Game Pass coaches film. You could see the ways that Sean Payton, who's one of the best offensive minds that we have in the sport, was finding ways to take advantages of a little bit of predictability from Shane Bowen and Mike Vrabel in their defensive coverages. They were executing the same plan that they have, and it was doing well. But there were just little wrinkles that Trevor Siemian was able to exploit, and Sean Payton was recognizing in real time that if the pass rush didn't get home, which it didn't in the second half, 4 sacks, but they all came in the first 2 quarters. If the pass rush wasn't getting there with quite the same speed, all right, well, you can have a quick release here and you can get that ball to the flat and you can at least get 6 or 7 yards and then try and rely on some yards after contact. That's the kind of stuff that you were seeing from Sean Payton calling that game against the Titans defense. But at this point, you look at this and you say, all right, well, what's Jeffrey Simmons doing comparative to the rest of his interior defensive lineman peers? And we had, if you'll recall, Mina Kimes of ESPN on the show last week. Now, this was, of course, prior to Big Jeff picking up 2 more sacks. He did that against the Saints. Harold Landry had 1. And I'm trying to think who had the 4th sack for the Titans. Regardless.
Was it Naquan?
Naquan, that's right. Naquan Jones. Don't call him Daquan. Naquan got his first career sack in his rookie season as a UDFA. So Jeff Simmons tacks on 2 more sacks and a whole mess of pressures and a pass defense on Sunday against the Saints. But Mina Kimes, even before then, was saying, hey, we all ought to be paying attention to what Big Jeff is doing too. If Jeffrey Simmons was an X-Man, Mina, who would he be?
I think Wolverine is the right one. Coming back from injuries that way and then just kind of just being such a weapon on the front. He is unbelievable. And in the conversation, I let colleagues at NFL Live, Ryan Clark and Dan Orlowski broke down the Byard pick and talked about him being a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I think Simmons has to be in the mix as well. I don't think he will win it, to be clear.
Sure.
But the way that those pass rushers all work together is what makes this team so good. And again, I did not see that coming at all. I've always been a Ryan Tannehill enthusiast. I thought even with Derrick Henry going down, I expected still to see good things from the offense. I did not expect this defensive line.
No one did. I don't think anybody well, you expected it to be better because it couldn't be worse. But this is different. Up against teams like the Patriots, who you saw just absolutely ravage the Falcons last night on Thursday Night Football. There's not a better four-man pass rush in the NFL. Now, what you do have to consider is that Bud Dupree missing some time now that he was starting to round back into form with the knee situation, and he seems to be play a greater role, have a bigger impact. You're seeing him make plays basically the last month. He plays literally one snap against the Saints on Sunday and then immediately has to be pulled because of an abdominal injury that has not allowed him to practice these last 2 days. Now, here's what I'll say, as we talked about yesterday, but just as a reminder in case you weren't listening at the time that we said this, it is not a guarantee that they won't shut him down at some point. I would look at this week as an evaluation process because that's what they're doing with Bud right now. In the same way that Julio Jones was allowed a full week before they put him on injured reserve this past Saturday, if they think that Bud's progress is not enough to where they need to do something to bolster their depth outside of getting Derek Roberson back off injured reserve, then you may see a move like that. It is unclear at this point just how significant the abdominal injury is with Bud Dupree, but it's enough to keep him wholesale out of practice right now. The thing that kind of muddies how big a deal that is the fact that there's not a lot of those dudes, the starters anyway, practicing at this point in the season anyway. Mike Vrabel's just trying to get him to the bye week. So who's the better defensive player of the year candidate right now? 615-737-1045. I'll make the case for both of these guys, Kevin Byard and Jeff Simmons, momentarily. But first, let's go to Anthony in Kentucky, up first on 104.5 The Zone. Hey, Anthony.
Hello. What's going on, Buck?
Not much, boss.
Man, I believe it's probably Jeffrey Simmons this year. I love Byard a lot, but Simmons just gets double teamed and triple teamed, and he still finds a way.
Hey, I appreciate the call. There's snaps where he's straight up triple teamed. It's crazy. Sean Payton identified that very, very quickly. No, big boy. We're going to throw everything we got at you. And he still made plays. I'm looking at his stats from this year. And again, box score stats are not a way to evaluate just how good a player has been or how really good or bad, frankly, a player is. But when you look at just how big a spike there is in what Jeff is doing against the first 2 years of his career, so in a 9-game sample size, his rookie season, right? Jeff Simmons comes in a home game, his first game as a Tennessee Titan because he's been rehabbing his ACL recovery process, gets out on the field in a game, I believe, in October against the then San Diego Chargers. There's a forced fumble on the goal line. Big Jeff gets his first sack. Phillip Rivers makes a face. It's beautiful. Mwah, chef's kiss. Jeff that season, 1 pass defensed, 2 sacks. He had 4 tackles for loss. He hit quarterbacks twice and tackles are a kind of an arbitrary metric, although, being involved. The biggest indicator of like tackle success is if your safety, like Kevin Byard was, leading your team in tackles, you got problems. Like that's where the tackles jump off the page at you. Now, year 2 of Big Jeff. 15 games, so he misses 1. 5 passes defensed. He's swatting them down at the line of scrimmage. Big Jeff's figured out to get his hands up even if he's not getting home. 3 fumbles recovered, making plays as far as, taking advantage of what the coaching is being given to him throughout the course of the week, the way that they like to force turnovers. He gets one more sack from his rookie season, 3 sacks. He has 3 tackles for loss. 2 quarterback hits his rookie year to 14 in year 2. Then you have this season. In 5 less games, 10 games so far, Big Jeff has swatted down 3 passes at the line of scrimmage. He's got 7.5 sacks. He has 9 tackles for loss, and he has tied the amount of quarterback hits that he had from 2020 in 5 less games. Jeff is out here smoking offensive linemen off the line of scrimmage. It's not even close. He's picking up and ragdolling 6'6", 300-pound human beings like they're nothing and tossing them back into the laps of quarterbacks. They're scheming up things to put him in place. When the Clowney thing was working well, this is why for all the issues with Clowney, right? And for as big a washout as that was, and it was, what was happening better and what you started to see that was sustainable was the way that they were scheming up these delayed stunts, these delayed rushes up front where you would have 2 guys of your 4-man rush setting a wall basically and then having somebody like Big Jeff come around late as the looper and making a play on the quarterback. You saw that with Clowney, and it was being schemed up around Jeff. Now, with more pieces at your disposal, you're able to maximize what this dude is capable of. And this so far, I mean, it's not even close. Now, Kevin Byard has been an All-Pro in his career. Kevin Byard, who has been, really since he's been drafted, one of the best players at his position. Now, there has always been some discussion about, Deion Sanders, oh, you're just a fan. Nobody knows Kevin Byard or Kevin Beard or Kevin Byard or however the hell they're mispronouncing it on these television broadcasts when it's just not that difficult. So Kevin Byard, his all-pro season, right? This was 2017, his second season. 8 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. He had 3 tackles for loss, hit the quarterback 3 times, and passes defensed 16. In 2021, again, 6 less games, KB has 5 interceptions. He's got his first career pick 6. He's got 12 passes defensed. He has 1 forced fumble. I think he also recovered the fumble that he forced, unless he's got another fumble recovery on here. Regardless, we said the touchdown, and at this point, no tackles for loss, but he's being used differently in a different scheme under, at that time, Dick LeBeau, as opposed to now with Shane Bowen and Mike Vrabel. Kevin Byard is playing as good a football as he's ever played, and his coaching staff is allowing him a little bit more professional license, or as Shane Bowen called it last week, professional initiative.
What is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think certain guys you probably trust a little bit more, and they probably got a little bit more leeway, right? Guys that potentially aren't as locked in, who might have some mental errors and do some different things that hurt you at times, like you're going to make sure they're doing exactly how it's coached. But guys that kind of understand the scheme, kind of have that 300 level understanding of the game, right? There's going to be chances there where they're going to take advantage of, right, to go make a play and be opportunistic for our defense. And at the same time, like if we get burnt, we're going to be on his butt in the meeting about it, right? But I mean, I think there's a little bit of professional initiative for those types of players to be able to go out and make some plays and not be robots out there.
Is that a comfort level that may not have been there last year?
Yes and no. I mean, I think last year there was a lot of stuff going on and a lot of moving pieces, and I think now we're into kind of a rhythm a little bit right now with where we're at as a unit. So I think that does play a part. So comfort probably is a good word for it.
It shows. These guys are playing as good a football as we've seen. For whatever reason, I was watching back the Bills game last night. I don't know why. I guess I didn't have enough stuff to do. I was watching the Bills game last night, and the final the final defensive drive, one where Mike Vrabel is making Sean McDermott sweat it out on the opposing sideline because Mike's not taking a timeout in the final minutes because at that point Vrabel is playing for overtime and he's going to gamble that he can hold this Bills offense with Josh Allen to a field goal. Now, they end up not having to do it because Sean McDermott goes for it on 4th and 1, and the defense makes the stop, and Mike Vrabel's fist pumping all over the sideline. And this is the kind of football that they want to play. You do that only when you are not extremely comfortable. I don't know that you can ever be extremely comfortable as a coaching staff in what's around you because I feel like as soon as that happens, you lose your edge. But they're clearly, as a roster, in a way that you didn't see at all last season. In fact, I told you guys this. Well, I guess I wouldn't have told you guys this because we didn't have the radio show at this point last year. But a lot of the reporting I was doing last year was the players were they were confounded. There's too many checks. There's too many alerts in the defense. There's too many different directions that you can go on one kind of offensive formation that's being trotted out there. There's just too much. And so what they did was they got rid of those players and they got better ones that could pull off what they're being asked. And it's working. Lucas, you said you had a question. We'll do that coming up next, as he says in my ear, other side. So we'll find out what Lucas has to say, and then we'll also play for you something that's laugh out loud funny because, who doesn't like the suffering of Texans fans? I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. to play higher level football than we've seen, right? Less time to cover. It's just easier to not be exposed. Now, you can have moments where you're Chris Jackson, where Chris Jackson plays a hell of a game against the Los Angeles Rams and probably against some of the better wide receivers that he'll see this year. Executes the game plan really, really well. And then on Sunday against the Saints, I mean, it's a nightmare scenario for him. He's getting targeted. He's getting picked on. He's getting abused, basically, by Trevor Siemian, who, again, wasn't good enough to be the backup quarterback here in Tennessee. Now he's out there slinging it in the second half, and he's coming after you. So I think that that's a good part of the discussion. I do think that you're more inclined, though, to give it to it's not a skill position player, but a secondary player, as opposed to a defensive tackle. Like, I think where you start is, all right, just edge guys. I think that edge guys are, unless you're like, we don't have middle linebackers. We don't have inside linebackers that play or that gain this kind of notoriety. I don't think since like Luke Kuechly. Maybe Levante David is one of these. But, I mean, Patrick Queen's not anything really special for the Ravens. Devin White's having a down year by his standards, even though he's probably somebody in this conversation. But I think it starts with the edge guys, and then I think you look more to the defensive backs, like Stephon Gilmore, for example, before you look at the big, nasty, gnarly defensive tackle. Now, Jeff is different. Jeff is a well-oiled machine. What I am seeing from him is different than anybody besides Aaron Donald this season. And I'm looking at this and saying, yeah, I think Jeff Simmons absolutely deserves to be a defensive player of the year. I really do. I think between the two of them, between Kevin Byard and Jeffrey Simmons, I think that Byard's playing right there at that all-pro caliber level that you're accustomed to seeing, and I think that Jeffrey Simmons is the defensive player of the year thus far through this season. I don't know where else I would look for the way that Cleveland's defense just got dummied the other day. Now, T.J. Watt getting hurt helps, unfortunately. That's a big loss for Pittsburgh. It's unfortunate for people who enjoy the defensive side of the game, but for me, it's Big Jeff. And I'm looking around at the rest of the defensive players in the sport right now, and I don't know who's doing their job specifically better on that side of the ball, better than Big Jeff is doing his, certainly in the last month. There's still 8 games left to play. It could all explode very, very quickly. Football is brutal and vicious that way.
Myles Garrett does have 13 sacks on the season.
Now, Myles Garrett's a monster, but, I mean, they just got dummied by Mac Jones, who doesn't have to do anything. He just has to stand there and hit a flare pass from time to time, and his defense will just physically chew on Matt Ryan's spine en route to 25-0. Let's go to Ernie in Nashville on 104.5 The Zone. What's up, Ernie?
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing fine.
Love to hear it. Ernie, I can hear me, though. If you'd turn me down in the background, I'd appreciate it.
Wait a minute. I'm having a problem hearing.
Well, Ernie, I can talk to you on the phone, but you're not going to be able to hear yourself on the radio. I would turn the radio down and let's just have a conversation, you and me.
Oh, okay. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here, bud.
All right. I want to piggyback on what the other gentleman was saying, and I'm sorry I'm getting away from the defense, but I want to get back to Ryan Tannehill. So I take a little issue. Basically, what I'm hearing is that Ryan has more. His numbers are better than a lot of the quarterbacks who are a lot more flashy, and he's won more games. So what I'm hearing is that if you're flashy, you have a better chance of being an MVP than if your numbers are good. And why else do we keep up with the numbers or the games?
No, it's a good question, Ernie, and I mean, just to kind of be factual, like his numbers aren't better than, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is not on a good football team right now, and Mahomes is smoking him. Like, as far if you're box score scouting the quarterbacks, Tom Brady, even though he's thrown a lot more interceptions in the last couple of weeks. Tom Brady has like 27 touchdowns.
Yeah,
right
leads
now.
the league.
That's-
He's third in passing yards.
I hate him. I hate him. No, it's not true. He's my favorite professional athlete. But God bless. 27. He's 44 years old. He's got the most touchdown passes in football. So statistically, he's not. His numbers. Now, what I'll tell you is his numbers are good for winning football. I mean, I wrote that whole article at A2ZSports.com this week about what Ryan Tannehill is doing despite what's physically crumbling around his feet. And I mean that in a literal sense as well, because the pocket has not been sustainable for that quarterback this year. There are 18 quarterbacks in the NFL, though, right now that have more touchdown passes than Ryan Tannehill. So if you're going to box score scout it, you can't give me that he's statistically better than people at this point. Now, Mickey Ryan of the Blaine and Mickey Show, I know this conversation was being had there earlier, sent me the list of ranking the top NFL MVP candidates that you guys were talking about. What was this, yesterday on Blaine and Mickey? And it's divided up into top 6, just missed, stock watch, under the radar, value bet. My God, those are buzzwords. Give me all the clicks, ESPN. Bravo. Anyway, Tannehill's in here. Let's squeeze Darrington in really quickly here on 104.5 The Zone. All right, go get him, stud.
Oh no, we're gonna be peaceful today. I need people to realize that MVP award is like prom king and prom queen. It's about how it looks. The numbers are for the general manager and how you're gonna get paid. That's just simple as that. Now, when you're discussing SEAL Team Blue, that's my nickname for the Titans.
Oh no,
SEAL
don't
Team
say
Blue.
that. Okay, listen. You have the N word when it comes to national, Darrington. That's mine.
I didn't use it.
I don't do
I said
nicknames.
mine.
I don't do nicknames. I've muted it on Twitter. I'm over it. No more nicknames.
No.
None.
I said that was my personal, what I call them, SEAL Team Blue.
All right.
That's it. Personal.
Keep it
okay,
moving.
Anyway. All right, so you're talking about Defensive Player of the Year. Now, do you not consider what Tremont Diggs, with all the interceptions that he has on defense, not playing at a higher level than even Kevin Byard right now? And I can't stand Dallas. And their team is winning with only 2 losses. And then, and let you answer that. And before I go, people, all while listening, if you're on social media following any of these shows, please like, share, retweet, whatever it is. These are our people. Support our people. Please like, share. All right, people. Have a good Friday. SEAL Team Blue, and we out.
All right. He deserves that. That was lovely of him. I haven't done it. He's doing a better job of self-promotion than I am, and nobody's better at that than me. So he's right. Trevon Diggs for the Dallas Cowboys, the corner. He's got 8 interceptions on the year. He started off an incredible stretch at the beginning of the season. Now, they also did get dummied by the Cowboys. I know the Titans have one of those on their resume, too, at the start of the season with the Arizona Cardinals. But week 1 is fading from memory fast, and there's not a lot of teams outside of the Patriots that are playing better defense than the Titans right now. When we come back, we'll continue to take your calls. Coach Dave McGinnis is going to join us at 12:20, and then we will let you revel in the misery of Houston sports fans because they're going through it right now, and you got the Texans on Sunday. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone. Hour number 3 on a Friday. Welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We are absolutely enjoying ourselves, and we're enjoying the time that we have left with you before we get you out of here for the weekend. With you till 1 o'clock, Lucas Panzica making all things happen. Coach Dave McGinnis going to join us in just about 14 minutes from now. We'll do some X's and O's about the mighty Houston Texans at 1-8 coming to Nissan Stadium on Sunday. I know Mac would get mad at me for dismissing an NFL football team that way, but there's a lot to dismiss about the Texans. Not for the Titans. They got to get that win. Speaking of all the things that are happening with Houston right now, I think that if anybody enjoys the suffering of Texans fans, and really just the city of Houston, it's probably Titans fans most, right? Not the larger baseball community because the Astros are cheaters and everybody hates them. Not just the city of Nashville because of the history that exists between these two cities with how one came to lose an NFL franchise and the other came to gain one. And not just silly squabbles over whose throwback uniforms belong to whom. No, listening to the sounds, the physical sounds of suffering of Texans fans seems to delight, and really, again, the city of Houston seems to delight Titans fans in ways that I find laugh out loud funny. Now, this is from Blaine and Mickey yesterday. And this is Sean Salisbury, who was Sean Salisbury a former NFL quarterback?
Yeah, he briefly was teammates with Blaine during one training camp with the Houston Oilers.
Okay. So Sean Salisbury, who does local radio in Houston, he was on Blaine and Mickey yesterday. And to listen to him describe what it's like to do sports talk in that city right now, I found quite delightful.
That's what it is. They feel like it's a minor league team here, and they don't trust the organization all the way down, and they're going to lose their best player here in the off season. So it is there is no buzz here. There's more buzz about the University of Houston football team.
My goodness, what an opening salvo from Sean Salisbury checking in at Sean.
It's true. Now they'll show up.
Yeah.
Maybe Tyrod Taylor will play. The players want to win. You guys know that. I mean,
sure.
Players don't tank, and it's not like they're quitting. But as a fan base, I mean, when you look at a tailgate when they've had a home game that's normally the area that's normally packed and nowhere to go, that you kids can run around in there and it's open space. It's not now. You'll get I'm sure that they'll try to fight it out and go against the best team in the league in Tennessee. But guys, I'm just telling you, like I said, we spent more time today as football talking about Mel Tucker from Michigan State's $100 million contract than we did the Texans. We didn't bring up 20 minutes of Texans talk today.
My goodness.
It's a tough scene in the city of Houston right now. So why not make them feel a little worse if you're a Titans fan?
You know how people will be upset that maybe we're not talking enough Titans or Vols, call in. Talk about the Vols this weekend playing South Alabama. He went on to say that people are calling in saying, for the love of God, stop talking about the Texans.
I mean, what is there to say? We have what? 5 days total to at some point talk about the Texans. I've been actively avoiding it all week. I talked to Greg. Me and Greg were prepping for the Cosell podcast that we do every Wednesday. I'm like, all right, Greg, let's do this Texans thing. And he's like, there's not a lot to them. And they just changed their quarterback. So, maybe we can talk more about what the Titans are doing as opposed to what the Texans are doing, which, of course, we oblige. And there's some good stuff in there about matchups specifically, but nobody wants to talk about them. They're not even the Jags, because at least the Jags have dirty, creepy Uncle Herb hovering over all of the proceedings. Although they've been playing better football as of late, and it has allowed Urban to slink back into the shadows. No, the Texans are so bad that people just want them gone, want them eliminated from the noon window as they get closer and closer to the magic hour on the NFL Red Zone, and the only thing stopping them is Tyrod Taylor or Tyrod trudging down the field for 3 points in a 27-3 blowout or whatever the case may be. The Houston Texans are a plague on NFL football at this point. And for the Titans, you got to handle your business against a team that you have none whatsoever. Not even if the stadium does the thing from what's the final Dark Knight movie with Bane. What's the title of that movie? You know what I'm talking about?
Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises, where it's supposed to be the Steelers field just collapses out from under them, while Hines Ward, for whatever reason, I think he's still 36 years old in that movie, is for some reason on kickoff return, and he's outrunning the explosion, which would never happen in real life because Hines Ward runs like me. Even if the field collapses from under their feet, they better beat the damn Houston Texans because they're awful at this point. 615-737-1045. Oh, Luke Worsham, my buddy at A to Z Sports. He's up next on The Zone.
Hello.
Hello.
I want to answer your question about Jeffrey Simmons, Kevin Byard, who deserves DPoY more. You seemed to think it was Big Jeff, but I would have to heartily disagree and say that it is KB who is deserving of that honor.
All right. Make your case.
So it's really two things. First of all, I think Byard deserves a lot of credit for what he does organizationally and communicationally. If communicationally is a word, I think you can just add ly to any word, make it an adverb.
I think Merriam-Webster will make that allowance. Continue.
You know, Vrabel talks all the time. He said it multiple times this year that Byard runs the show for them defensively. He gets guys into the right place. He gets things aligned correctly. He's, relaying play calls. And I think that in addition, of course, to the interceptions, he deserves credit for that. But the other thing with Byard, which has been true of Simmons, especially in the Buffalo game, but the thing with Byard that I can't get over, and it was true for, the first little bit of his career, he disappeared last year, and it's true again to where, when the Titans need a play, if they start slow or if it's toward the end of the game and it's close and they need someone to make something happen, he's always the guy who does that. It's always Kevin Byard. And it's not just that he's turning the ball over. It's not just that he's making big plays. He's doing it in very key situations that are, turning the tide of games. So in terms of his value to the Titans defense, I think that if in training camp, Jeffrey Simmons had gotten hurt, the Titans would have been obviously a lot less good, but they wouldn't have collapsed. I think they would have collapsed without Kevin Byard.
All right. I like that call. Thanks, buddy. Enjoy your day.
You too.
Luke Worsham, my fellow Titans writer at A2ZSports.com. I think that's a good argument for KB. Now, listen, I do think they would have collapsed without Big Jeff, because I think that if Bud Dupree's situation is going how it's gone and you don't have that kind of pass rush, I think you're not in a lot of these games that you've been able to decide because of your ability to affect the quarterback. So we'll disagree there. But we'll talk to Coach Mack about that coming up next. Let's squeeze Alex in Nashville in quickly before we're joined by Titans Radio's head coach. What's up, Alex?
Hey, what's up, Buck? I think it's definitely, first off, after a horrendous defense from last year, it's incredible to just 1 year later be having this conversation, and then you throw the fact in about we still have Fulton and Landry that aren't even in this type of conversation, so it's very refreshing. But having said that, I think it's year to date, week 1 to week 10, it's got to be KB. Makes more splash plays. The reporter before said a lot of what I was going to say is more splash plays, more clutch plays, more consistent. Now, having said that, ultimately, I think it will be Simmons by the end of the year. He seems to be on a hot stretch. He has 7.5 sacks on the season. 5 of them are in the last 2 weeks. Some of the offensive lines he has going up against in the next few weeks are horrid, and he can just pile up the stats in the next 5 to 6 weeks. So I think now it's KB. By the end of the year, Simmons is going to pile up the stats, and it will ultimately be him. But again, awesome to have this type of conversation.
Thanks for the call, Alex. Here's what I'll say, and we'll put a bow on it before we welcome our guy, Coach Mack, in. In a perfect world, if your play is executed as well as humanly possible, what one position is not involved in the play? If everything goes right. Lucas, you got an answer for me? Or are you in the middle of something?
I did not catch that part.
All right, very good. If everything goes right, your safety's not involved in the play. Now, he can make interception. He can affect the game, but if everything is going right, your safety is not a factor.
And if everything goes wrong, he could be the one making the tackle.
And if everything goes wrong, he's Kevin Byard in 2020 leading the team in tackles. That's the case for Jeff Simmons over KB. And I think it's a damn good one. I don't think he's going to get it. I think Byard, frankly, is a more likely nominee, and I think Trayvon Diggs playing for the Cowboys will impact that. But we'll get into less, embrace debate type topics. We'll talk some ball with Coach Mack. Titans Radio coming up next here on 104.5 The Zone. The music means Coach Mack, Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio on the call. Sunday noon is the kickoff, of course. Titans countdown begins at 11 o'clock. I got you starting at 9 a.m. on the Lee Company countdown to kickoff. Mac, happy Friday.
Hey, Buck. How we doing?
We are fantastic. I was really enjoying last night's game, even though the product ended up being pretty lopsided. How much fun do you think Bill Belichick is having with that defense at this point in the season? Because those guys are rolling right now.
Well, they are. And then, of course, Bill Belichick and his group, they know how to coach defense. And, I mean, they spent a lot of money to bring that group together, off of what they had the year before, which is a major disappointment as far as their franchise is concerned. So spent a lot of money, got some vets in there. And, I watched the whole game, charted it, and of course, I'm very interested in the Falcons because of Arthur and a lot of the coaches that are there with him that I know very, very well. They just don't have enough players yet, and I mean, you could see that, what defensively what they did is, I mean, they just played a solid front. They knew they couldn't run the football 1 inch on them, and then they were able to get pressure. I mean, when you can't run it on a defense and you can't block them on a pass rush, I mean, it's hard to make anything go on offense.
Yeah, and missing Cordell Patterson has obviously been a big part of their offensive game plan throughout the course of the season last night. Mac, with this game coming up on Sunday, 1-8 is the record of the Texans. It's obviously not been an ideal situation for them, but it's still a divisional game. These are still professional athletes and coaches on the opposing sideline. With what they are doing right now at quarterback, going from Davis Mills back to Tyrod Taylor, how much of what they were previously running do they just throw out the window because the skill set is different?
Well, what they did, I mean, the skill set's different in this. And first of all, you've got a rookie, as opposed to a veteran quarterback. And Tyrod Taylor can hurt you with his legs also. And so that's open to David Culley, with the legs. I tell you what I do, and of course, I chart 5 games pretty deeply for every broadcast that I do and for the opponent, and I really could care less about what they're I'm trying to watch what they're doing, schematically with the people they're doing it with. And then, I really, especially a team that's not having success win-wise, you like to watch the body language and what's going on there. They're still playing really hard.
Right.
I mean, they've got some guys defensively that can bring it. And so, to me, at this point in the season, teams have started to separate themselves, but everybody is still extremely, extremely dangerous. I mean, we see it week to week, right, Buck? I mean, we see it week to week, and people seem surprised, on Monday when whatever the line is, and I don't, whatever that means, that the favorite didn't win. Well, look, everybody's got players, and so this is going to be a major game because, first of all, we know that the Titans have been patching holes in the dike all season long. And plus, let's just go through the history of the AFC South, and then let's microcosm it down to the history between Nashville and Houston. So all of that being said, their offense that you asked me about, Tyrod Taylor can do some of the things, at least schematically, that their franchise quarterback could do that Davis Mills could not.
To that point, though, Max, so we saw him against the Dolphins. Obviously, they've had some time off in between this game and their last game.
Right.
The turnovers, though, were so uncharacteristic of what we've seen from him throughout the course of his career. And now I don't know how much of that is just a learning curve after coming back, after a bit of a layoff, but what were you kind of seeing from their offense and what they were unable to do as far as playing mistake-free football?
Well, see, mistake-free, of course, you know as well as I do, and so do your listeners, because they're sophisticated listeners. Mistake-free never happens in the National Football League, right? I mean, so there's always mistakes. But what it looked to me like, he was pressing. I mean, and when you start to press and try to make things happen outside the space of what you should be doing, and that's normally, when things start happening. As you start to press, things happen. First of all, you don't become as ultra conscious as you need to be about ball security, and then you start trying to fit things when you're going through the air with things that you can't fit in. That's, to me, what happened. And plus, let's give the other team some credit too. They were going after the football.
Yeah.
And as I say, any time that you line up to play in the National Football League, Buck, it's going to be a struggle. It just depends on how much of a struggle you make it for your opponent, depending on how you play.
Certainly, and it's been kind of, I don't know that I'd call it an outright struggle, Mac, that the Titans have had on offense in the last couple of weeks, but it's clear that they're still trying to figure out what life without Derek and really without the explosive plays that Derek provides is going to look like. Now, for Ryan Tannehill, it seems like he's playing really sound fundamental football at this point, despite the way that things have gone on the injury report around him. But from the standpoint of what you're seeing from Adrian Peterson and Deontay Foreman, is there the amount that they run it on first down, is that still the correct approach based on the change in personnel?
Well, absolutely it is, because of what people are doing.
Right.
You know, when you line up, and look, this week, talking about what people are doing, and I'm particularly talking about defensive coordinators, they know that this thing is still a run-based offense. You know, there's clearly, you know, not that the running back that's back there that everybody fears, but they still fear the fact that if you continue to run it and you can move the chains on first and second down, they're going to have issues. And so you're going to see Lovie Smith this week. He's always been a too-high safety guy. Every stop that he's made in the National Football League and in the collegiate ranks, you're going to see him more post-safety this week. You will see more post-safety, especially on first down. Now, what Ryan Tannehill, you mentioned him, Buck, what he does a really good job of, according to game plan and according to the way he moves his people around, of being able to get them in the right place, you know, at the line of scrimmage. So, you know, you don't just run it on first down just to say, regardless of how many they have up there, we're going to run it. Now, you were able to do that when you had a back there that was unlike any back that's in the league, all right? These backs are different, and plus, here's the issue, too. They still haven't quite got all the chains in the sprockets yet, figuring this out with this running back by committee yet, which
right.
You can see because they've been an anomaly in the league, you know, completely different than anybody else because they had a singular guy that was that dude. Well, they don't anymore. And so they're going to have to, but they still have to make the run game work. And you're right. It's been a struggle, and it's really been a struggle early on in ball games, moving the ball between the 20. When they get in the red zone, they've been really, really effective.
Right.
But they still need, and I know they're striving to, smooth it out between the 20s, especially at the start of the game.
Yeah, sustaining drives has been a difficulty for them, particularly on third down at this point. Coach Dave McGinnis, as always, presented by our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. Like an extra set of pads, they have been protecting Tennesseans since 1947. Farm Bureau Health Plans offers the great health care coverage you need with a price tag you can afford. They make Coach Mac's visits with us possible each and every week and across all four shows. Mac, with the situation with the Titans at this point, kind of feeling their way out as we've discussed and trying to make explosive plays a part of their game again. What's happening with A.J. Brown, and he was really well defended against the Rams, against the Saints, it seems like they were clearly trying to find ways to take him away, and some of the drops that he had on his own part obviously didn't help. How much was Marcus Johnson able to benefit from the attention that A.J. Brown is attracting, and what can A.J. Brown do at this point to just kind of get right?
Well, he's getting right. A.J. Brown's right, but as you're saying, he's getting major attention. And he's getting major attention in a lot of ways, whether it's man or zone, because there is ways to pay, you know, double attention to receivers, either in man or zone, and that's what he's getting.
Right.
And so Marcus Johnson stepping up like he did, at least when opponents put on the film, they say, okay, well, maybe we need to be concerned about this over here. That's just the way it is. I mean, and you know this, Buck, that every game is a singular event unto itself, and so when defensive coordinators that the Titans are playing put on the film now as the way this offensive personnel is set up now, without a Derrick Henry, without Julio Jones, without A.J. Brown's the guy that they're going to target. I mean, that's what you do. And so if that does happen, two things you've got to do. Schematically, you've got to be able to adjust so that you can get other people open. And then when you flush a defensive coordinator away from just completely trying to dominate one receiver and try to spread it out, then you've got to go back to your main guy. That's the way the yin and the yang of calling offenses and defenses during the course of a game work. You go into it thinking one thing as far as when you're working during the week, and then you've got to see what fleshes itself out as the game starts. That's just the reality of what happens.
And I'm glad that you made that point, because that's kind of what I felt watching the second half of the Titans defense against that Saint offense. And of course, Sean Payton is one of the best offensive minds in football, but it did feel like there was a little bit of a rhythm from what the Titans were running defensively that Sean Payton was able to kind of sniff out and take advantage of if the pass rush wasn't able to get home quite as quickly as they were, obviously getting 4 sacks in the first half. Was that your observation too?
The key to that part of the story is the pass rush.
Yeah.
Because, the success of this defense in recent weeks has been the 4-man pass rush. Well, once you get Bud Dupree hurt, once Adaney goes out and you don't have enough people, and then they start getting tired, and all of a sudden now the launch point is lengthened back there for the quarterback. They look, Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints were not running anything different. They just had longer to let it develop.
Yeah.
Time and space. That's the key to offenses against any defense that you put up in front of them. So time and space. Their time and space in the first half, defensive advantage. Time and space in the second half, their offensive advantage.
Coach Dave McGinnis is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Of course, Mike Keith and Coach Mack, the whole Titans radio crew, they'll have the call for you on Sunday. Noon is the kickoff against the Houston Texans. Mac, obviously this game is going to have some history associated with it. It always has some history associated with it, but this is going to be a particularly special moment for two guys who I know you spent a lot of time with, and certainly Jeff Fisher, Floyd Reese, posthumously going into the Titans Ring of Honor. I'm sure you've been asked about this several times throughout the course of the week, but what does that mean to you as somebody who's known them and worked alongside them, and what does that mean to these guys to be able, and their families, for them to be able to have this moment?
Well, it's very personal and it's very well deserved, and it means a lot. First of all, let's give Amy Adams Strunk and Kenneth Adams and Barkley. I mean, they've done things so right, and this is another so right thing that they have done. I mean, those two guys that you just mentioned, Floyd Reese is the GM, Jeff Fisher is the head coach. When they relocated here to Nashville from Houston, I mean, they're two of the pillars that you talk about on that side of it, on the coaching and the administration part of it, and then on the player side of it, everybody always points to the other two pillars, of Eddie and Steve, and so they meant everything, and so to honor them in such a way is great. I mean, I've done a lot of shows nationally on this, and again, as I say, I always praise Amy Adams Strunk and Kenneth and Barkley, because look, to me, this is so right, and the ownership group here has punched so many right buttons since Amy's been in charge, and this is one of them. And Jeff, I did Amy and I for the Titans Amy Coach Mac podcast. Jeff Fisher, well, we just put his interview in. That will be the one that we will drop later on today. And then look, Jeff Fisher loves this city. He loves this team. And he's very, very thankful, and God bless Floyd Reese. I'm just so happy that before that we very sadly lost him, that he was able to know that he was going to have this honor, and for Sally, his wife, to be able to be in on the recognition on Sunday. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and it's right. And when things are right and come together like this, it makes a big difference. But believe me, it's very personal with me, with both of these guys, and so I was extremely happy.
Well, we're certainly happy for them and happy for you as their friend and colleague for a long time as well. Mac, enjoy the football on Sunday. I'll see you in the booth.
Buck, I will see you in the booth. Thanks.
Coach Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio. Always a pleasure to have him on. Yeah, we haven't really talked about the Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese angle of things this week, and I don't know Coach Fisher the way that I knew Floyd. But it is so cool to see the ripple effect from those two individuals and their families and their legacy here in Nashville. So I'm really, really glad for them that that's going to happen, and everybody who's associated. I mean, you can tell Mac's passionate about everything that he does, but I know that those two in particular mean a lot to him. And for Floyd, it's nice. It's nice to remember your friends that way, and so as somebody who spent some time with Floyd, not nearly as much time as he spent with you as Titans fans, because I just knew him in his broadcast career. But really looking forward to seeing how the Titans handle that ceremony and that new Ring of Honor that they've got, and very much well-deserved. 615-737-1045. Let's go to B in Nashville, who's been waiting patiently. What's up, B?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
What you got
I
for
wanted
me?
to call in. I watched the Patriots for the first time last night.
Okay.
And, man, honestly, I mean, yeah, the defense is amazing, but honestly, everybody give Mac Jones so much hype, but he looks like a younger Tannehill to me. They do, like, the same thing, like all the underneath routes, and only thing different is he throw the ball more. Like, I look at the stats are almost the same. The interceptions are almost the same. The completion percentage is almost the same, like, but everybody give him so much hype, but it's like down on Tannehill. And I also wanted to get on you and Lucas, man, because I'm almost tired of y'all hyping Darrington up, man. He calling in saying all this dumb stuff, and y'all let him get by with it. He said all this about Tannehill, talking about underneath routes. He thought that's what you have when the deep ball is covered. Like,
that's right.
That's common sense. That's football. Like, but you wrong him today, man. I was mad about that. That's why I called in for it, man. Y'all have a good one. Tighten up. Go Buckeyes.
Hey, go ahead and hit him with it. Yeah, B deserved that one. I actively encouraged Darrington's stupidity. Now I love Darrington.
I love Darrington too.
He is as big a part of this show as we are, as are all the people who call us regularly. It makes me so happy that we have this kind of variety of different callers, and I love that they all hate Darrington. Which is why we go to him every time that he calls. So you're right. I probably actively encourage it way more than I should, but it's funny. I can't help myself. You know what else is? Polls. They're next. Little Sunday service. Not quite Sunday yet, but it's Friday. You got to get the good feels on a Friday. It's been a fun one. If you missed any of the show all week long, we got a podcast for you where you can hear the great guests that bother us or that we bother. I shouldn't say that bother us. I'm laughing because I'm texting our friend Diana Rossini right now and she's giving me some grief because we haven't invited her to the radio show in a while. She's been on maternity leave. And I said, no, Diana, I texted you during Saints Week, and you just left me on red. And she says, oh, yeah, that was Odell Beckham Day. I'm sorry. And then we took a sad selfie together on the sideline, and I tweeted it out. But we have a lot of great guests that stop by the show. If you go check out the podcast page, you can listen to Christian Fulton's interview. Trent Dilfer was great. Will Compton is varying degrees of bad and obnoxious, but he was pretty good this week as well. We'll give him some credit where credit's due. Ryan McGee from ESPN, so many good people. And we appreciate you guys for making it possible. Polls.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Because the polls have closed and the votes have been tallied. It's time for a poll update. And he's a good boy. Buck Reising Show producer and correspondent, Lucas Panzica.
What's worse for Houston sports fans right now? Losing the World Series to the Braves, the Texans sucking, or having to watch the Titans' Ring of Honor? 38%, the majority went with the Ring of Honor. 37% say losing in the World Series. 25% say it's the Texans.
I mean, it's got to be the Texans because the Texans are two of those three things, right? It's not just the fact that you had the better NFL franchise ripped from your clutches if you're a Houston sports fan. It's the fact that you made it to the World Series. Nobody wanted you there, and then you take an L to the Atlanta Braves. And then, of course, the Houston Texans are just a football plague at this point. And, oh, yeah, you can't have the throwback uniforms either. Sit and spin.
Is the universe actually conspiring against the Falcons? As yesterday, was it a lunar eclipse that lasted for 3 hours and 28 minutes, something that happens like every X amount of years?
All right, I'm going to read this tweet to you specifically. I'm sure the club music is going to distract from the meteorological. I just botched that word so badly. Moses Moody. God, that was so bad. I'm going to read you the tweet from before Thursday Night Football last night. It's laugh out loud funny. This is from Dalton Mullinax. He's a weatherman in Atlanta. Tonight, the Falcons play the Patriots. Also tonight, there is a partial lunar eclipse that will last 3 hours and 28 minutes. You can't even make this stuff up anymore. The next time Earth will see a partial lunar eclipse as lengthy as tonight will be in 648 years. Literally, the universe is conspiring against Atlanta Falcons football. Matt Ryan gets shut out in the middle of a 28-3 or 3-28 lunar eclipse.
Well, I don't know if the universe shut out the Falcons, but the Patriots defense definitely had something to do with it. Are the Patriots the most terrifying defense the Titans will face this year? Over 1,000 votes, 52% say yes.
I didn't realize that was a poll. Are you improvising? Are you doing your own polls?
We talked about this.
That's not true.
Are you forgetting about our own polls?
Yeah, like I said, I'm aging rapidly. I'm the person on the Progressive commercials who's trying not to be their parents. Yeah, I'm forgetting things. The Patriots are a scary defense.
52% say yes. Dylan says no. They already played the Cardinals.
Yeah.
That was scary.
That was really bad. That's when you thought that's one of those games like the opener of Vrabel's first career game as the Titans head coach with the Dolphins, where you feel like your season's ending in one game. Delaney Walker's dragging an ankle off the field. Marcus Mariota's got nerve damage, and number 50 for Miami is just yelling body bag at a concussed Taylor Lewan. Disaster.
Adam says the Steelers would qualify coming up.
Steelers are probably the best defense in football, but I don't know when TJ Watt's going to be back. That's a big part of this. The fact that they don't have him for an extended period of time, potentially, that takes a lot of the juice out of that defense.
Who are you rooting for this weekend? Colts, Bills, or neither? Sit and spin. That's the majority. 56% went with the latter. 29% Colts, 15% Bills.
Yep. Did it make you nervous to read that last one into a live microphone as a future aspiring broadcast professional?
Yeah, I feel like at this point we've said that phrase so often. Callers are saying that phrase on this show. It's become a staple.
God bless them. Let's make T-shirts.
Is cantaloupe a filler fruit? 63% say yes.
Well, were the options yes or yes? Because yes is the only correct answer.
37% did say no. I do take issue with Preds and Threads replying, saying same with watermelon. It tastes as the name suggests. I won't have watermelon slander on this show.
No, I'm good with that. I'm gonna outvote you.
You're good with watermelon slander?
Watermelon stinks.
What is wrong with you people? Mickey Ryan's the same way. He hates watermelon. He says it tastes like dirt. And this show isn't even a safe haven for us watermelon lovers.
No, you are. As the line in Billy Madison goes, you are awarded no points, and may God have mercy on your flavorless soul.
Our friend Mike Giardi of NFL Network said it is the worst fruit, Buck, when talking about cantaloupe.
And normally, if Giardi's taking a poll that seriously, because normally he just sideswipes me on Twitter and keeps it moving, that's how you know it stinks. Those are the polls.
Those are the polls.
Fun show. Lebowski says watermelon is basic. AF, Derek R., watermelon is trash. You're outnumbered.
What is happening?
It's not good.
It's the best fruit.
What?
It's my favorite fruit.
What?
And I love fruit. I love all fruit. Watermelon's the best.
That's the dumbest thing you've ever said into a microphone. No, but there is nobody's favorite fruit that is watermelon.
What's your favorite fruit?
Pineapple.
Pineapple's delicious.
Something that has actual flavor.
I love pineapple.
Watermelon tastes like dirt. Lucas Panzica, lover of dirt. We'll be back with you on Monday. I'll have you Lead Company countdown to kickoff on Sunday morning, 9 a.m., right before the Titans kick off against the Texans. Enjoy your weekend. I'm going to talk to you. It's not that long from now. I'll be back at 2:20 because Blaine and Mickey are up next, and they're stuck with me too.